Good evening. Thank you for joining us in another episode of Torrevieja Talk. It is the two Pauls here again this week, and we have two games to recap. Now, people who joined us last week will remember that we said we wanted maybe 3-4 points out of the two games. The first game, Paul, was at the weekend, and we were at home.
Yeah, we were at home against Althea, and unfortunately we didn't get any points from that at all. We got beat 1-0. It was a one goal in the 64th minute from a set piece that, consistently we seem to be really poor at, even at pre-season with set pieces, and it's come back to strike us again. It
was a very poor set piece. I mean, me and you sat and watched the highlights together, and obviously discussed as we were watching it, and obviously we're not here to jump on the back, we're here to support the club. But when we're seeing set pieces like that, the man completely unmarked at the front post, getting it underneath the keeper, and we'll obviously get to it further on, but the keeper was actually dropped for tonight's game. Was that a result of that mistake? Who knows?
You've got to question it, yeah, because, I mean, Oscar literally played every game last season. He's played every game so far, and unfortunately, he hasn't had a single clean sheet so far. One of his faults, should we say, is coming out for the ball a little bit too early and getting caught out, and that's exactly what it looks like this time.
It is. I mean, it looked like he obviously took a couple of steps forward and then obviously realised he was coming from post and he was going across instead of closing the angle down, which then left it totally open. I mean, People can see that now. We will put the highlights on the screen now, Paul, I think. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed them highlights, and I hope you now see as well what me and Paul were talking about obviously the mistake on the corner. I mean, obviously nobody's perfect, Paul, so we can't jump on them and say, oh, how did you do this? It's a mistake. It's a defensive mistake. As me and you pointed out, we could only see 6 players back out of what we were thinking would possibly have been 9.
Yeah, we think there certainly should have been more. There was no one on either of the posts. I don't think all the blame can be laid at Oscar. That's probably unfair. But, the fact that it was Juanma looked like he was picking up the man. He was the number 9 that came running in. It was almost like as an afterthought. He chased him to the front post. We had guys in the box. But when you look at it in detail, there wasn't that many of the forwards that were in the box. They seemed to be holding off a little bit. So, it was almost as if there was... those guys, those 4 or 5 that were in the box stood were just sort of around marking each other.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we've said there, we don't want to come across like we're jumping on the team. People who tune in and might think, oh, you're picking faults. That is kind of the idea. If our team has lost the game, we want to know why the team's lost the game. We want to be a weekly show which discusses the game, and we don't just talk about the good things that happen. We want to look at the bad things and see if they can be improved. And when we are seeing the reason behind the goal that we've conceded, we want to point it out, because we want to be fair to the listeners. We don't want you guys to see something and to be saying to us, well, why didn't you mention that?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's got to be about constant improvement, hasn't it? You've got to look at the details and see what it is that we can change to build on for next week. And unfortunately, it's the old saying that you learn from your mistakes better than you learn from when things are going positive. And at the minute, the results are telling their own story. And we will come on to tonight's game later on. But, for the Althea game before, we'd lost 3 out of the 4. We hadn't had a single clean sheet. There was quite a few issues there. And you can see that because, Progenio's looks like he's coming at it in a certain way, and he's making a number of changes. He's making key changes, as we can see from tonight's game.
So I mean, obviously, do you want to just go through the stats and a rundown of the weekend's match, and then obviously maybe give us a recap of the scores from the weekend's games?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we started off where he'd made 4 changes. So out went Eddie, Sanchez, Juanfran from up front, and Carrasco, who actually got sent off the week before. So that was a forced change. And then in came Juanma in midfield. As we said, he was marking on that corner. Cesar, Martin, who got 5 minutes the week before coming back from injury, and Adrian came in. One of the definite positives from the squad is that there was a full 90 minutes for Martin and for Lewis. In fact, it was Lewis's first full game, but both of them had been suffering from injuries at the start of the season, so it was good for both of them to get a full 90 minutes under the belt. One of the issues that it could have been an issue at the time, should we say, and it turned out not to be, is that Matej Simic, the guy that's been playing in defence, and he's been kind of used as a pretty pacey centre back to chase down any over the top balls that we were getting caught at the first couple of games. He came off after nearly an hour or so with a suspected injury, but luckily that turned out to be nothing.
I mean, obviously, one thing I've noticed there, obviously, you were discussing, sorry, just to jump in.
Yeah, go
and I know, obviously, it's been mentioned in the previous weeks as well, is obviously the changes in the games. It seems to be 3 or 4 or 5 so far in every single game. Now, I want to know your opinion. My opinion, in pre-season, we discussed the changes that were made, and we were actually happy with that because the whole squad was getting a run out. We were finding out about the squad in pre-season. Now, the amount of games we played, as opposed to the other teams in the league, we played more in most cases. Surely we should know the best team now, and we shouldn't be making so many changes every game.
That would be the theory. That's what we'd think. I mean, as well as the 4 or 5 changes per game that's been made lately, he's using all 3 subs as well. I mean, at this game that we're talking about now against Althea, Brani, who was one of those, he was a Croat, really fast forward, getting a lot involved in the game. He was taken off at half time, and Sanchez was brought on instead. So you've got to think, as in one way, whether it's good, the amount of change that happened, but in the other side of it, it's good that he's not afraid to make changes and not pull people off at half time if it's not working or they're not performing.
It's definitely true. I mean, I don't mind the usage of three substitutes, but the idea of 3 or 4 changes to the starting squad each game so far is something I'm not too keen on, because I would like to see them said, right, you've got 3 or 4 games, go and impress me. Not you've got one game, right, you're out. You've got one game, right, you're out.
You wonder what kind of put the mental state to put in some of the players in who were thinking in the back of their mind, all right, I'm starting tonight, but unless I have a top notch game and maybe stop a goal or bag a goal, then I'll be out again next week. So as you said, it's probably not great for the players themselves.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're desperate to see Torrevieja climb up the table. We want to come on here and go, check these highlights out, we just absolutely smashed the team. But at the minute it's not happening, and we want to know why it's not happening. No doubt the people who are listening want to know why it's not happening. But go on, back to what you were saying about the game.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, as I said, there's quite a few changes. There was, it's almost a case of the defence has been pretty consistent. 1 or 2 changes there or thereabouts. It seems to be the midfield and the forward that's getting swapped around a lot. So whether that's from the lack of goals that is the concern that he's mainly focusing on, and that's where. So in this game, Luis Carlos only came on for 20 minutes after not even featuring on the bench the week before. Juan Fran came on for half an hour or so. As I said, Sanchez came on at half time. It's the likes of Jorge Martin, who are probably more your central midfielders, if not defensive midfielders, who are likely to hold back, but support the attack rather than be involved in the attack. That played the 90 minutes. It seems to be the forward players that are getting swapped around.
It's I mean, that is the main thing, I think. Strikers need games. The more games strikers play, the more confident they get.
It's all about confidence, definitely.
So, but I mean, fingers crossed. Obviously, we can move on. I mean, how did the other teams do at the weekend?
Okay, right. So we'll have a rundown of the week. This is the week 4. So it was again straight up before we start. Apologies for half the pronunciations. So Benignim 0, Jove Espanyol 0. So both sides still without a win so far. The home side failed to take advantage of Jove keeper Adrian Murcia being sent off just 17 minutes into the game, basically clattered down an attacker and got a straight red. Next up was Torrevieja 1, Acero 1. First drop points for the home side. They took the lead halfway through the second half and then squandered loads of chances to kill the game off, but then were punished with about 5 minutes to go by Acero, who got the point. Torrevieja had only ever won all their games before this. Paterna 1, Recambios Colón 2. So Paterna had 3 clean sheets, and then they finally in this game conceded 2 to one of the league's new boys, but could only get their 1 goal with 3 minutes into stoppage time. Next up, Elche Ilicitano 3, Borriol 1. So Borriol, one of the new guys to the league, took a 1-0 lead into the break, probably feeling pretty confident. And then obviously something happened with the team tour, excuse me. And then in the late 15 minute spell, they bagged 3 goals to get 3 wins from 4. Orihuela 0, Atletico Saguntino 1. So Atletico got their first away win with a first off goal from Nesta. But it was a game to forget for Orihuela, as they had a penalty before then saved. And they also had Theo sent off with 15 minutes to go.
Oh.
Next, Buñol 1, Rayo Bense 1. Both teams finally securing the first point of the season. Rayo got a late equaliser on that one. Novelda 2, Villarreal C, who we actually played tonight. This was Villarreal's first defeat of the season. And Novelda actually grabbing their 3rd clean sheet. So, they're starting to build a good solid basis. Muro 1, Crevalente Deportivo 1. Quick 2 goals, like on 66 minutes and 68 minutes, kept this into a pretty even tie. And then last up was a bit of a clash of the Titans. It was Castellon 2, Ontinyent 3. Now, this is the champions from last year against, the unstoppable force this year we met in the first game of the season. There was over 2,200 spectators for this 5-goal clash. And Ontinians have kept their 100% start to the season. All of these goals came before 31 minutes on the clock. So a bit of an explosive start. Average a goal by every 5 minutes, 6 minutes or so, and then nothing for the rest of the game. And that's that.
That's that. That's the end of the weekend's action.
Yeah.
And then that obviously moves on to tonight. The reason we are a day late because of the 2 games, and we went away tonight against Villarreal C.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this was a game where we actually spoke, didn't we, last week about the fact that some players from this team, you never know, could end up in the top side.
Oh, absolutely.
And after the start we've had, there was changes made, and we got a clean sheet and a point.
We did. So it was a goalless draw. We're pretty unlucky actually to come away with a goalless draw. We had 2 goals disallowed. Now there's information. Literally, this game has only finished in the last hour or so, so there's still news and information coming through. But we had 2 goals disallowed. One from Cesar and one from Juanfran, which looked like it was because of a handball, but it was by one of the defenders. And obviously we got penalised, and couldn't make anything of it.
Very annoying that obviously a poor decision has cost us a goal.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, the other one was because of an offside, and the linesman didn't even flag. It was just the referee, just took it upon himself. So, bit unfortunate more than anything else. We don't want to start saying, it was the referee robbed us or anything just yet. But I think it tends a case to be pretty unlucky with that one. So I think, a draw we've got to take away from home against, as we said, a side that could be playing, these guys are La Liga's future and that. And that could be considered a pretty decent result. Yeah,
I'm definitely happy with it. I mean, how did you feel the players have done then, obviously, with the changes again? I mean, it looks towards the players who've come in, have made a difference, apart from, obviously, the scoring side of things.
Yeah, so, I mean, if anything, this is a pretty big, and we talked about before about the 4 or 5 changes in the past, and there were 5 changes, but it was who? So straight up, Oscar, keeper who's played every minute of last season, he's played every minute of this season so far, dropped. Now, as we said before, we don't know whether it was because of that goal before. He was dropped, and our new signing in the summer, who literally came in as a backup, Miguel Serna, got his first game and got a clean sheet, our first clean sheet of the season. So that's definitely something to be celebrated or whatever. Next up was Jorge, our captain, dropped to the bench. Carrasco in his place came in, who obviously was suspended last week, and he took over the armband. And then dropped as well, we had Branny, Adrian and Luis, and in their place came Juanfran, our striker, Luis Carlos, who got them all in the pre-season, and Eddie to shore up the back. Now, part of these changes, he changed formation as well, and it wasn't a case of being set up for the draw, but he played with a back 5. So we had Eddie, Mate Simic and Quintero at centre-back, and then Vicente and Luis Carlos playing on the sides as kind of wing-backs, we think. So he was pretty shored up to try and prevent these guys from scoring.
I'm definitely happy with the changes, and as you say, obviously the change formation as well. It's obviously been effective in terms of we got ourselves clean sheet, and can we build now in confidence from that?
Exactly. So you always think if you've got to build from the back, there's 2 schools of thought, isn't there? You either, you keep a clean sheet and nick a goal the other end, or you just try and score just one more than you let in, and that's obviously not worked for us.
Well, I mean, obviously we were solid at the back tonight. Keeping a clean sheet. We've scored 2 goals, unfortunately both disallowed, but it does show that the tactic can create goals, which is nice to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, we sit in their 19th place. There's a reason behind that, so do you want to just run through the results from tonight?
Yeah. So it was pretty much a full league programme tonight. So first up, the massive game of the season for me. So Boreal, who I was getting a little bit excited over in pre-season, the new boys to the league who took their division by storm. They were up at home against last season champions Castellón, and they won 4-0. They absolutely destroyed them.
That's obviously propelled them up to 13th place.
Yeah. I mean, that is a massive result for them. The scary thing for as I say, for the losing side, they've now conceded 7 goals in the last 2 games. So Yeah, so that's a bit of a scary one for them. Next up, Atletico Saguntino 2, Elche Lusitano 0. So Atletico beat us the other week 1-0, and they seem to be beating everyone else. They've actually won 4 of their first 5 games, so that's definitely good form and something. So Jove Espanyol 0, Bunyan 0, the second draw of the season for both sides. Excuse me. Acero 0, Benignim 1. So the first win of the season for Benignim, and Acero still haven't won a single game yet, just like us. And we've got Crevalente Deportivo 2, Recambios Colon 0. That's the second win for Deportivo. Ontinyent 2, Torre Levante 0. So this was the two sides who up until Sunday had won all of their games.
And Torre Levante have now dropped down to 4th place on 10 points.
Yeah, exactly. So now for Ontinyent, it's 5 wins from 5, 14 goals scored and only 3 conceded. So, that's absolutely tremendous start to the season for them.
I've just dropped that down there. People can now see the top of the table there. They're sitting 3 points clear of Saguntino.
Yeah. So it just shows, when you think of our results before I carry on, we've already played the top 3.
Yeah.
So, that we 3 out of our 5 games, we've played the top 3. So, we've got to take some credit for that, with our results so far. Okay, next it was Rayo Bense 0, Paterna 0. That's the 4th clean sheet of the season for Paterna. That's why they jumped up they're in 6th position. Althea 2, Orihuela 2. So Althea still undefeated, but they've now conceded 9 goals in 5 games. So, that's
it's crazy for a team sitting in 3rd place on 11 points to have conceded 9 goals in the 5 games.
Exactly. And then there's one other game that's actually scheduled for tomorrow night. That's Muro versus Novelda. And obviously they play tomorrow night. Muro looking for their first win of the season.
Fantastic. And what people will see on the league table, you will see obviously Torrevieja sitting down here in 2nd bottom. We're on 2 points, and obviously the worry now is obviously 2 points. You're looking, if we get a victory, that's only going to put us up to 16th. So the next game is vital, I would say, because obviously if them teams around 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th pick up points and we do not, we already will be dropping between 4 and 6 points behind mid-table.
We need to start keeping up pace. Now, the good thing that could go in our favour, and we've got to start thinking positive about this.
Definitely.
Play Sunday night is actually against Muro, who are 2 places above us now.
So hopefully we can turn them over.
Yeah. So if you think about if we're going to get a win any time soon, it's going to be against somebody that's struggling just like us. They're looking for their first win of the season. But what's also going to go for is, as I just said, then they're not playing till tomorrow night. So they'll be playing Sunday night just gone, Thursday night, and then Sunday.
Yeah, so fingers crossed.
So looking at some of the things from tonight's game, it looks like a lot of our guys were absolutely shattered by the end of the game. And we're playing 2 games in 3 days. So hopefully, not in a nasty kind of way, but hopefully the Muro players will be absolutely shattered with having the same thing for Sunday, and that we can take advantage of that.
We can dream. I mean, just look there, a couple of points. I mean, what? Two wins, and when you look at the other teams in the league, results are swaying backwards and forwards. I would say 2 victories, 8 points, will be up to, I would say, about 13th. When you think of results going in other games, and then before you know it, you might only be 3 or 4 points behind 8th, for example, by then. So if we think positive, a couple of victories, and the season looks a whole different prospect.
Whole lot rose, yeah,
yes.
Definitely. Now after Muro, we the next 2 games after that, Novelda and Crevalente are in 8th and 7th. So you got to think, if we can get the confidence boost in one against Muro, and we try and take one of those guys, and we get 6 points out of those 3 games, then that's going to be massive for us, and leapfrogging back up to the table and chasing those. Not letting too much of a gap get ahead of us.
Exactly. So definitely a critical few weeks just to kind of define how the season's going to go. Are we going to be coming back discussing another battle? Are we going to come back with smiles on our faces, hoping that we can start pushing on? We do try to stay positive, but we've discussed this, and me and Paul said we have to be realistic, and we have to come on and say, look, it's not going well. We've not started the season well. Why have we not started the season well? What do we expect to see? What do we as fans expect to see?
Yeah.
And what do we hope to see? So we hope you do understand that we have been honest with you instead of just coming on and basically putting a smile over something which is not a smiling situation at the minute.
We're in our rose-tinted glasses,
yes.
Should we say, about the situation. I mean, if you guys listening now think differently or have your own views, then, get in touch, leave comments on YouTube, and, by all means, we want to hear what you say. We are, fans of the club, and we do that. We want to do all we can to support the club, and whether that's analysing defeats and stuff like that, and finding the faults, then maybe it's it. And then in the same way, it's praising the successes and things like that, like Miguel Serna's clean sheet tonight, which is tremendous for the lads.
Exactly, and if anybody listening is a fan of Torrevieja and they want to actually talk about Torrevieja, guests are welcome to come on. People can come on and talk about Torrevieja if they wish. We are hoping to have a guest from the club next week. But what I'm going to say is, if you stay tuned to our Twitter accounts, your Twitter account, Paul,
is at Mersey Socios.
And Paul will keep us updated tomorrow evening on the critical game between Muro and Novelda.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, fingers crossed, Muro will lose that game, so they go into Sundays with no confidence.
Yeah. Hopefully they get a couple of guys sent off as well, and they'll be suspended for the weekend.
Exactly. We don't obviously wish too much bad luck on them, but we do.
We need as much luck as we can get at the minute.
Exactly. But remember to go and check out Club Deportivo Torrevieja.com. Remember to check out Mersey Socios. Remember to check out FM Central, and remember to tune in next week for Torrevieja Talk.